Yeah, sorry, we're just setting our recording. There we go. We're recording. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Try not.
Oh,
You want me to?
Yeah,
okay. So the first thing we're going to do is share with you that we've had no new updates from FirstNet since the holidays. Tracy Murdoch, our original lead, is on the line. So Tracy, is there any update you want to provide since we spoke with you last?
Hi, Kim, thanks. No, I don't have anything significant to share. I can tell you that our real focus as we're starting this new year is preparing for the state plans. And I know, Kim, we've shared some emails, and I just look forward to working with you on that process and what specifically the plan criteria, so that I can make sure that the plan is as you expect it, and then that 90-day process, that short window there, will go smoothly for Colorado. So and that's all I have for now.
Okay. We do want to share, if you could.
Not sharing. No, I mean, it's not sharing.
Chief, can we approve the minutes? Joel Estes joined us. So while we get a document going, we'll.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody should have the December meeting minutes, and since we actually have a quorum, anybody have any questions or any corrections to those meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve them?
So,
second.
All right, perfect.
Who was
All
the
in
second?
favor?
Was that Bob Pfeiffer? Sorry.
It was. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. All right. We finally got meeting minutes approved. That's awesome.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the state plan assessment tools. Ed's going to display. If you could display the next document. So we've been working with the working groups. We have met with all 3 working groups this week, actually, and we have provided them a draft document to provide input on. This document was a tool that was created from resources that California and Kansas both created, and then from a pretty comprehensive kind of brain dump process, I'll call the official title, from the working groups on various questions that we want to see satisfied through the state plan process in order for stakeholders in the governing body to have the adequate information they need to make a recommendation. So we don't want to bother you with this document yet until it's ready for kind of a last glance by all of you, but we do want to make you all aware that it is in the process, and we hope actually perhaps by the February meeting we'll be doing a deeper dive on it. We also intend to share a lot of this information with FirstNet. I think they're also wanting to hear from states to ensure that the state plan answers all of those questions, and we aren't scrambling in the 90 days for them to answer questions that we assumed would be answered. And Tracy, I don't mean to speak for you, but that's certainly, you guys are seeking that input, correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And I will actually share this so that we can understand that we have it all and what's going on. So yes. Okay.
And we have not officially determined how we're going to weight, criteria, score any of this. Some of that information is strictly from previous documents. So this is absolutely a draft version, and just want to make you all aware that this is in process. The other piece that we plan to share with you in February is we are close to finalizing a contract amendment with Signals Analytics, and we will detail the pretty significant state plan support work we intend to have them do. And they'll be looking at a number of topics around the actual network. They'll be looking at topics around market adoption, having FirstNet and all of you understand how we might see adoption through the state. We'll be looking at the costs associated with adopting the network. They intend to, or hopefully will be able to create some sort of tool for agencies to use to input what the cost to adopt FirstNet was once FirstNet shares through the state plan process, what those anticipated costs might be. Agencies will have a picture to that, in addition to basically having some sort of regional package at a multi-county level, because we want them to see how FirstNet deployment is impacted in their county and the counties that surround them. that will include coverage, all of the things, the operational and technology, or understanding of the operational offerings, technology offerings that FirstNet will provide. And then we can roll that up into information that goes to all of you when we say, hey, we expect that an estimate of 10%, and I'm speaking randomly with no factual basis here, but an estimate of 10% of Colorado's agencies might adopt on a regional basis by this time period. And so we think that could be really helpful to us making a decision about the opt-in, but certainly also about, for FirstNet, about them understanding how the network would be adopted in Colorado. So we expect, like I said, to have a lot more information for you at the next meeting about that work and what it looks like, and then any input all of you may have. In the short term, we may be able to send you the draft scope, and that way, if anything jumps out to all of you, we don't have to go through a contract amendment later on. So that's that tool. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Next item is the RFP process. Do you want to talk about that? And we have the.
Yeah, so we are making progress on the RFP process for the state alternative plan. Ed just shared kind of a slide we put together to talk through everything. If everyone remembers, the national award is expected sometime in March at the earliest, based on the documents that are publicly available. And so we're kind of trying to tie our process into that. One of the things we've heard is that we might not get as much response until there's an official announcement on the contract. So we're kind of trying to time through that. Signals is finishing up the final design work on our initial design, and we're right now we're going through the narrative. We've talked with our procurement department, and I think we've pretty much got a plan put together for procurement method, how we're going to do this. And so all that said, what we're looking at is probably, sometime early February, we'll release our RFP and start that process. Once we get a draft, right now the RFP is mostly kind of a set of random thoughts, that we're all kind of trying to piece together. So once we get it into a draft format and we've got an initial blessing from our procurement team, we will share that document with the board, and would hope that you guys have some time to kind of review that. It will be a very important document that we look at and move forward. So that is coming along well, and I think will be a good process to start. With that, one of the things we're going to be asking for, and we will accept self-nominations first before we start making calls and grab you, is much as the contract with Signals, we want the review committee to be a broad representation of the folks that are involved in this. So we're going to need anywhere from, probably 5 to 7 people to sit on the review committee and be the ones that actually go through these responses and judge. It will be it will be a fairly significant time commitment. It's not going to be constant. I think it will come in spurts where, for a few weeks you might have a lot of time commitment, and then it might, dissipate for a few weeks. But we really want to get this thing right. So as I said, if you're interested in participating in this review process, please just email one of us and let us know. Depending how that goes, we will then start to reach out and request certain folks for this. Additionally, if you have someone in mind that you think would be a good person to be on the review committee, please let us know and we can reach out to them. We're also looking to have a couple of different, more functional SME type reviews. We're looking to do something maybe like we did at AdCom, where we had a group of technical folks just look at it technically and provide some input on just the technical aspects of the proposals. We had some financial people look at just the finances and just give us some feedback on just the financial aspects of it independently. And then all of those subgroups kind of fed into the overall process. So in addition to the folks that are actually on the review committee, if you know of someone that you feel would be a good choice for a subject matter expert, whether it's a technical, financial, operational perspective, again, just let us know, and we'll kind of start a running list of folks that we want to reach out to. So that's about it on the RFP front. Any questions?
Do you want to talk about the stages at all yet?
No, well, that's,
Okay.
yeah, the process is going to be somewhat of a staged process. We haven't worked out how that really looks yet. So again, once we get that nailed down with our procurement team, we'll send that out in the documents. So.
So the next item is the PSCR Innovation Accelerator Grant Program. I actually don't plan to go into great detail about that, but wanted to make you aware of through the PSCR and by virtue of them FirstNet, there is quite a significant amount of grant dollars available to really encourage R&D in the private sector space. They are just beginning to do webinars on this, and so I hope to have more information out to you next month. And the reason I just want to share it with you is because in some of the program, there is the encouragement for private sector to partner with government for some of these grant programs. And we've already had a couple of calls through our program asking if there might be any governments interested, any agencies or government interested in doing that in various topics. It could be UAS, it could be mission critical voice, all sorts of things. So if your agency or you might have interest, we would ask you to let us know, because then we could put the right people in touch with each other. Again, we don't have a lot of information, but I just wanted to put that out there for you and feed it as we provide an update next month. Okay. Next item is the working groups. As I touched on, all three working groups met this month. They've basically been provided the same update we've given to all of you, and then we've gone over in more detail those assessment tools. So we will be ramping up their participation, and we have also seated with some of those working group folks about their ability to participate, if not as a scoring participant in the RFP process, and certainly a subject matter expert to provide input potentially in certain elements of the response. And then the project update. Randy, can I just ask you to give a quick update with where you're at on the modeling?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're right now in the latter stages of doing what we call model number 8, which is our verified design. So basically, the last thing that we presented in great detail was model number 7 that had 1,459 sites, and we went through and vetted it for historic landmarks, forests, heights of commercial sites to make sure that they're actually available, relative to their existing tenants, and also did some vetting in regards to the microwave towers associated with the DTRS system that are used for some of the sites, and removing things like passive sites and things that couldn't take additional load. So we're expecting some of our first results either the end of possibly tomorrow, but probably early next week, and that'll give us a very clear picture of something that is very realistic with a lot of the real world caveats imposed.
Randy, would it be reasonable to say we might be able to share a view of that at our February meeting?
Absolutely, yeah, we should.
Okay, great.
All right,
so Chief,
you're up.
That's everything there.
Okay, cool. You're up, Ed.
Yeah, so right now, we've been meeting here to strategize this very important year in the process. And so one of the things that you'll see initially is, beginning in probably the second week of February and moving on, we're going to get back out to the 9 all hazards. Probably not realistic that we can get to every 64 the counties and the 2 tribes in the time that we have in this year. But we're strategically going to work through the 9 all hazards, as well as re-engaging with those important groups where we can get in front of the majority of these folks. For example, this morning, Brian spoke to the JCECA. It's been a while since we've been in front of them, and I would say that they were extremely engaged today. Looked like we've had some new leadership, and very enthusiastic about the project and what's going on. I spoke at the sheriff's last week, and same thing. Some of our counties where the sheriffs weren't as excited, and we really couldn't get much time with them 2-3 years ago, very engaged, want some follow-up. So I would say by the next meeting, we'll have more of a concerted strategy as I'm working to put together at least the first and the second quarter aggressively so we can get in front of many of these groups and we can re-engage them and make sure that they're not only getting the most up-to-date data, but they're also giving us feedback on that. Hand in hand with that, the newsletter, website, marketing, we still are doing the newsletter. We are moving to a blog format. You'll see that more of a comprehensive approach to that as we do our website refresh, which is ready. We're just moving some things around, archiving some things. We want to make it as clean as possible. The idea is that we want the website, we want the latency to work out very quickly so that when you push a button, it comes up and you can see it not only on your computer screen, but also on your device, since we're working in the space of smart technology and smart devices and that type of stuff. We want it to be very clear. And so newsletter, website, all that, you'll see a refresh on that, and we're going to be doing some marketing as well as we move forward. We're working on some Colorado-specific brochures that will re-engage with our fire, EMS, our police, and our emergency managers, and any other group such as dispatch, 911, so that they can get a one-page or a two-page synopsis of what's going on and how we got to this point, and then also have some key links so that they can actually get involved in the conversation if they haven't done that to this point. Lastly, I would also like to ask you, if you would, those of you who are watching, if you could go to the training. We have a free public safety broadband training. This was our team spent a lot of time. We also had folks from our various working groups that have been working on this. You can find this at CoTrain, and as you can see on the screen, you can get a 0.5 CEU for the course there. All you have to do is go into CoTrain, and if you'll just type in the word in the search, FirstNet, is it FirstNet or FirstNet Colorado? Just FirstNet.
Yeah.
You go in and type FirstNet, the two courses will pop up. One is for credit, one is for no credit at all. And so we've got a lot of stuff you've probably seen in the past, but it would be a really good refresher, and especially those people who haven't been engaged in the process and you'd like to help to start to get them up to speed. It's just a good 101 for them to go in there. And then also in social media, we'll be showing the video that we've embedded in there that we did, Colorado specific. And it's kind of like that first video you saw from FirstNet, but we've expanded it out. It's about 8 to 9 minutes. And so we'll be sharing that in links and on social media. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have for today.
All right. Before we go on to AdCom, maybe this would be a good time for Bob Pfeiffer to share his new position, because we'll have some additional outreach or at least advocacy. Bob, do you want to update everybody on your new appointment?
Sure, yeah. Chairman Wheeler of the Federal Communication Commission in DC appointed me as one of 4 municipal electeds to be part of the Intergovernmental Advisory Committee to the FCC. So that's a 2-year appointment, and I'll be going to DC several times throughout the year with electeds to talk to the FCC about really 3 subjects. One, obviously communication, broadband, and public safety. And obviously those are the 3 main topics that will be discussed. So I'm excited to do it. And also, I might as well share, since this team kind of knows, Ken Fellman was also appointed as the Yuma County Attorney to serve on that same board. We actually have 2.
That's awesome, and congratulations, Bob.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, I've been a little low key, as I was kind of working on subjects in that direction to get this appointment, and it was successful. So I appreciate it, and I'm back in the saddle, and obviously I'm going to be more in tuned into this subject, as I need to be advocating, obviously, back at DC.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Do we have an AdCom update, Brian?
Joel is on the phone.
Yeah, Joel's on the line, so.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Joel.
Yeah, so on the AdCom side, the network is doing what the network's supposed to do. We haven't had any real issues. It's performing well. We're slowly transitioning more folks over onto it. As I've said in the past, it's taken longer than we had hoped, but it's moving forward, and we're making progress on that front. And we also just completed phase 2 of the build out of our broadband integration center in the basement. General Dynamics has put another $50,000 into that project. It's really coming along nicely. So I'm hoping when we get the final phase done, which is going to be sometime in March, that maybe we can have a meeting out this way and everyone can take a look at that.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. Legal issues.
Hey, Joel, is DIA up and running yet?
We have, yes. We have 3 sites at DIA.
Yeah.
2 of them are up and running. 1 we're still having issues with, but we're getting that addressed.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Great.
Yeah. Now our challenge is now we just got to get some people out there to start using it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your job, Chief.
I know. That's why I got to talk to Joel about what dongles and what stuff we have available so we can get people using it. So
well, we can have an offline conversation about that, Chief. We'll get that covered.
All right, absolutely. So now you're up, Brian, with your legal issues.
Legal issues. So we met with our Special Attorney General, Ken Feldman, who Bob referred to, and the actual Attorney General, Aaron McLaughlin, who works with us yesterday to kind of go over, Ken's been doing some research generally along the lines of how does this impact and affect Colorado law? Are there any issues with Tabor or, local control, based on the national statute? So at this point, the initial research that Ken and his associate Brandon had come up with was there could be. So, I think as everyone knows, one of the critical issues in terms of, authority is whether or not the opt-in or opt-out decision binds funds. If that does bind state funds, then I think it's pretty clear the governor does have the authority. If the decision does bind state funds, they're going to need legislative authority to do that. So Ken's going to do a little bit more research on that. We're also looking at some of the home rule issues in terms of, I guess there's when issues that affect both state and local governments come into play, what the case law precedent is if, like, let's say, for example, the governor said, I want to opt out, but all the municipalities said, well, we want to opt in, or vice versa. And how does that work in terms of the precedent, for getting through those conflicts? So he's going to do some more research on that and get back with us hopefully in the next month or so on some of those issues. And once we can kind of get a clear opinion, and what he's hoping to do is issue a memo. And that memo will be reviewed as well by the Attorney General's office to kind of say, okay, this is what we think, it needs to happen. So we'll hopefully get that as soon as possible. The other aspect is the FCC comments. We did submit FCC comments a while back that Ken worked on. At this point, we're just waiting back both on the FCC and the NTIA with the change in administration. I think it has definitely slowed down the process of responding to the comments that we submitted. So hopefully we'll hear back sometime soon, although it wouldn't surprise me if those processes don't really get ramped back up again until February, March timeframe, as there's only 3 FCC commissioners right now versus usually there's 5. And then I imagine it's going to take some time to get a new head of the NTIA in place and Department of Commerce. So that's the legal update.
All right. So we just roll right into old business?
Yes. So I have a list of a series of conferences between the end of February and early June, calling out particularly the IWCE conference in Las Vegas last week of March and the APCO Broadband Summit in DC in that 3rd week of May. In terms of getting bang for your buck and high-level, what I'd call maybe strategy or policy issues related to public safety broadband, we absolutely want to put out the invitation for any governing body members to attend one or both of those. The IWCE, the bulk of it is actually Wednesdays through Fridays. You can only find a short period of time in your calendar, and 100% of it can be paid for by SLGT. So if this is the year for SLGT to support your travel, to really begin to understand and immerse yourself in these issues, we would ask that you consider doing that. We have money to spend, and we would like to spend it on you. So I will just put that out there again for the group. Next is the state broadband office.
Thanks, Kim. And just to add on that, hopefully if the announcement has been made by IWCE, which is in late March, it could be a good opportunity to kind of start to understand some of the processes that AT&T, would be following and really kind of get some ideas on what's going to happen. So, broadband office, I'm not sure if anyone heard, but in the State of the State speech, the governor discussed some broadband issues, mostly, or I should say all related to the rural broadband initiative that we work on, and talked about the creation of a state broadband office. That office will reside here in OIT and report to SUMA. And the details of that in terms of what the staffing looks like, what the charge is over and above, what we're currently doing, how does this FirstNet effort fit into that, are still being worked out. So just wanted to address that if anyone had heard those comments in the State of the State speech. It really should not impact the FirstNet effort whatsoever, and could potentially complement it by some additional resources. So that's where we're at on that. And once we do get more guidance and clarity on that, I'll let everyone know. So, any questions?
Perfect.
The last item under new business is we actually had a request from Motorola to gather a group of key influencers, operational leads, end users, et cetera, and hold a voice of customer discussion with them around the device space. So we're likely going to schedule that sometime in February or March, potentially tangential to the operational or technical working group. But you will all be invited to participate in that. However, they asked for a second meeting to talk with the Colorado governing body about how, from a strategic policy agency executive perspective, that the network would be a tool for your responders. They know that they have to be careful about delving into the state plan space. They are a partner to AT&T, in case you weren't aware of that. And they don't want to have any topic of conversation around anything that influences or impacts that partnership. And they also know that we have an RFP forthcoming. So they really want to just understand how you as executives see that network as a tool for your responders, different from a voice of customers. So we wanted to ask the governing body if you guys would all be willing and interested in having that as a portion of our standing meeting in February or March. It could all be done by phone as well.
Hey, Kim, this is Bob. Yeah, but Kim, I struggle with that actually. So knowing that they're a partner and knowing the situation, knowing everything we're going through, they yet want to come and meet with the governing board, knowing how many pans we have in the oven kind of thing going on. We have an opt-in and opt-out. They're partners with AT&T. I just think that, to me, there's some conflicts here. It just, for some reason, I feel that. And I could be wrong. Anyone can weigh in and tell me I'm totally off base.
Not open to the discussion.
Yeah. I just think a vendor coming in who's in bed with the awardee as an opt-in or whatever, it just seems kind of weird. Are we going to allow all the others to come in and do that too? All the other equipment vendors?
Theoretically, if asked, yes, that's what we want to create the space to do that. So because we don't want to be perceived as being partial to any particular entity.
But I think your concern is well founded, Bob. I think we discussed this internally a little bit, and as Kim mentioned, our procurement folks said we need to be careful on this, especially given the fact that we might or we will have our RFP out, and how does that play into it? So we've talked internally about this, and I think we can see both sides of this position. So. I think we're open. We would, defer to you as the board to give us direction on how to proceed with this.
And let me just, I'm sorry, Bob, can I just share an example of what they told me specifically some of their questions might be around, and maybe that'll help.
Yes, please.
Like. Okay.
Please.
They said, we are not looking for an opt-in, opt-out discussion, but more for what vision does the Colorado FirstNet Committee have for the network as a tool for their responders? For example, do they see it as the big data pipe, or do they believe that they will ultimately be moving their mission-critical voice service to FirstNet? Do they have plans for secondary responders such as public works, transportation, utilities, schools? And then how the committee envisions end users managing devices.
So this is Paula. Can I chime in real quick?
Yes, please do.
Those questions sound a lot like the questions that they asked during the conference. Was it? Whatever. Yes, that I attended. I think it was with AT&T. But same kind of questions. They were just asking us, and we just responded on a piece of paper to them. And they didn't really give us much information, but seems very similar. So I'm okay with that, and I hear what Bob's concerns are and agree with those concerns, but we also might gain some information for ourselves by having a conversation with them in person. But yeah, sounds very familiar.
I kind of agree with Paul on that. I mean, we can definitely set the, the terms up of what's on the table, what's off the table, and if they ask for something in there, I think anybody has the ability to voice their concern or say, that's not something we really want to discuss right now. This, prevents brings up too much conflict or potential conflict of interest. I'm open to having a discussion with them, as long as we don't get too much into opt-in, opt-out, or any of that.
And they are willing to share both the voice of customer agenda and this governance agenda ahead of time, and that we could then review and provide feedback about discussion topics ahead of time.
So I'm good with that. I'm good with what everyone's saying. I just, as long as we have some rules of engagement, in my daytime job that I get a paycheck, I run vendor management. So, with procurement, so I'm worried about some of this stuff too. And as long as we know rules of engagement and agenda and we're all good with it, then I'll go along with it.
And what if we do this? I was just thinking, Bob, one of the things we do a lot of times when we get press requests, what we have is we have the reporters give us canned questions right off the bat that we can share. And then, kind of prepare some answers to that, and that will help us. And then that, it kind of limits some of the off-the-wall tangential conversations that could get you into trouble. So what if we propose when we go to Motorola, we say not only do we want an agenda, we want the 5 or 10 or whatever questions in writing submitted to us, and that we will then distribute those questions to the board ahead of time so people can prepare some thoughtful statements, and rather than just doing off-the-cuff type stuff. Would that be something that you think would be good?
For me, yeah. I just want to go back to what Paula said about information. It seemed like it was a one-way thing going on there. I want to make sure if they come and talk to us, I think we should learn a lot from them as well, not just pick our brains so they can better whatever their agenda is. I want to make sure it's a fluid, acceptable, nothing that undermines any efforts of our opt-in, opt-out. If that's also doable, that would be great too.
So why don't we do this, Brian? Have them submit the canned questions or whatever that we can, start working on some of our answers. But ask them to be prepared to share their answers, or at least their current perspective to the answers on those questions as well. Of this is what we're planning on, or this is what we think. Like, how do you guys plan on using these devices? Well, at the same time, share how they think we're going to use them and what their plan is to deliver that.
I agree.
Yeah, just Phil Malone. I think it's been a good discussion. The only thing I think if the intention is to gain information and to share information without compromising any part of the process, I'd agree. But I think Bob was right initially. There is some exposure when you're talking about an identified, probably contractually aligned partner with the potential awardee, which I think there's only 3 identified and 2 of them have been eliminated. So that left, as everybody knows, AT&T standing. It seems like, that's kind of murky to get down that road. It doesn't surprise me that's pretty much finished Motorola's methods. But the only thing is, if you opt in or you opt out, there's going to be a lot of things. If the state opts in and different entities opt out, there's just the interoperability requirements. That could lead to, I think anyway, it could lead to some presumptions of device procurements and I don't know. If Brian, if you said you talked to some of the legal people about that, if that's a gray area or it's very clear or not, I think it could be problematic from the point of view that depending on what the state elects to do, that could cloud the issue going forward with the state.
Well, so that's the discussions we had in terms of legal was more had to do with our RFP, and that was one of the things we were very clear to Motorola is, you know, if we do this, it could potentially endanger your ability to respond to our opt-out RFP. And I don't know, I have no idea whether or not there's any kind of clauses in their partnership with AT&T that will preclude them from responding to a state opt-out RFP. I have no idea. So I think in the scenario that we opt out, that, you know, I think we told them, you're accepting the risk that if you want to do this, and then if you want to respond to our state opt-out RFP, that may preclude you. So we're kind of putting the risk on them for that. In terms of the opt-in, you know, I don't know what, if we opt in, there's really, you know, the mechanisms I think for device procurement are going to be set by FirstNet. So I'm not sure what issues there would be if we focus more on the devices and the utilization of the network in an opt-in scenario. What influence that would have on the state.
You're probably right from the opt-in perspective, but this has not been decided. So it could be viewed that it could prejudice the state's position if they opt out. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm not trying to be legalese about it, but I think everybody's been on these calls, have been engaged in contracts and procurements, and it could make the state subject to challenge on any type of award if they opt out, if Motorola is or is not the successful part of the bid. That's all. I just think, I think that, what are you going to do anyway? Motorola's going to come in and promise you that they want to know what you want to know. Well, we don't know a lot of things to say what we know, because we don't know who's going to be the final provider or who's going to be the final builder. We don't know what coverage it'll be, when it'll be there, how much bandwidth's going to be initially available, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a efficient expedition by Motorola to increase their standing with their partnership with AT&T, and that's what I believe. I don't know if it'd be worth the effort, but that's just my opinion. I think that it paints a picture that maybe it's too early to paint. But that's all I know.
Yeah, this is Joel Estes, and I kind of see it the way Bill sees it. And I guess the real question I have is this, you know, what do we stand to gain on the Colorado side of this issue from having this meet with Motorola? Obviously, they stand to gain. They're going to ask questions. They're going to look for our feedback. You know, Motorola tends to be somewhat reticent when it comes to sharing information on the other side. I'm just wondering if we're going to gain enough out of this that it makes it worth our while, considering the potential downside.
I will ask them that question and provide that answer to you before we commit to anything, as well as ask them to provide the agenda and the list of questions. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds fair enough. Give us something to look at anyways.
Yeah, so what we'll do,
we won't commit to a meeting. We'll send this information back. We will offer to participate in the Voice of Customer, which is really just the true, in case any of you participated in that, it's the user input on the LTE devices they want to bring to market. And we will make it clear that there's no discussion about Colorado's plan in that discussion. So.
Perfect. Let's go with that.
Does that work for everybody?
Good.
Okay.
Yep, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, what about?
This is Emo from Signals. Can I make just a quick comment just to help maybe everyone out here?
Please do, Emo.
Sure.
So Motorola, this is just some information about Motorola as a whole. Motorola has to make some decisions as a company in what direction they're going to go, whether they're going to become a services and software company or still make hardware in a new broadband world. And so they've end-of-lifed a couple of their LTE products already. their vehicular modem is end of lifing. And so they have their new APX 7000 P25 radio. They have the L version, which has LTE in it. And I think what they really want to do, let's assume Motorola is as pure as the wind-driven snow. I think is that they really want to get feedback and figure out what products do they need to make and who they can sell them to, because their Lex 10 phone has not been selling very well. Overseas, they've been trying to sell it, and sales are down. These are all public things I'm telling you, just so you're aware of that. So they're trying to see, do they still make the Lex 10? Do they make the APX 7000L? Are these going to be utilized in the U.S. market in either FirstNet or even if they make them available, will people buy them? So, should they resurrect their vehicular modem? So I think if they're truly trying to figure that out, that's maybe a legitimate conversation to see, is there a need there? Would you use something like this? And that helps them make a product decision to get you a product that's usable for you. That's assuming everything is on the up and up, but I just want to make you aware of that's kind of what's happening with them as a company and their product line.
No, that's information. Thank you, Emil. Yes, what we'll do is we will get we will request all the information from Motorola and kind of package it up and get it out to the board, and then ask for a final verdict, yea or nay, on whether or not to meet with Motorola. As Kim said, either in the February or March meeting. So.
All righty. Anybody else have any other questions or general discussion? All right. I think we already covered the dates for the conferences.
I have one quick question for the group, and maybe Kim and Ed and Brian. I'm just curious if we should meet in person coming up to kind of go review some of these things, or I see a lot of value, or at least for me, to have conversations with people face to face instead of over the phone. But I also want to make it worth our while. If there's something coming up that we can schedule a 2 or 3 hour meeting for, we haven't met in person for a long time. I throw that out to the group to see what everybody else's thoughts are.
Yeah, Paula, I think that's a fantastic idea. We haven't really talked about this, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking perhaps March, simply because I would like, as you mentioned, I would like to make the most, it's difficult enough to get all of you folks, in one place and the commitment that it takes to do that. So I would like to maximize that effort, much as we did last May, when FirstNet came out here. So what I would like to do is potentially look at March again, being the eternal optimist that I am, that the national award actually gets announced sometime in March, and that we have released our RFP. And I think if both of those things happen, then we could really look at, going through the RFP, talking about what the review process is going to look like, some timing. If the award has been announced, we'll have some good estimates on timing and really map out our strategy for the rest of this year, and figure out what it's going to look like. So I think that would be an excellent use of time.
That March would be great. I just, as we go through things together, there's a lot of conversations that take place, and I glean a lot from listening to everybody else, but it's really hard to do on the phone. So March would be a great time frame, or sometime after, right after the board would be. I just wanted to perhaps get something on our schedule before we start. Well, I've already planned vacation time, but so we can reserve some days for that.
Yeah, we'll send out we'll send out some information and make some requests on that, and if we need to move a March meeting later or something like that, we can do that. So right now it's March 16th is the regularly scheduled meeting. So we'll get that information out. And one more piece on Paula, having Paula speak up, jog my memory. One of the things that we are going to be putting in the RFP, and again, you'll see this before it goes out, is we're talking about some other, potential uses and impacts of this network in an opt-out scenario. And one of those is the 911 effort. For those of you that are not aware, the conversation of how this state transitions to Next Gen 911 is been going on for quite some time and is heated, to say the least. And there's a lot of voices. And so what we want to do is kind of talk through and address the fact that, this FirstNet network in an opt-out situation could, impact the next Gen 911 conversation. So there'll be some language in the RFP around that. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. We've been talking with the 911 community. We wanted to make them sure we're not trying to come in and take over 911 as the state. All we're talking about is simply, potential synergistic efforts from an infrastructure perspective. So again, you'll see that content when we send that out to you. But we just wanted to give you guys a heads up in case someone comes to you and says, "What the hell? What are your FirstNet people trying to take over 911?"
Since you brought that up, can I ask you a quick question? And thank you for that. I mean, the next Gen 911 is going to need broadband and so on, but because of the state broadband office appointment or where it's going to be set, how do you see that to next Gen 911, or is it just too early to tell at this point?
A fantastic question, Paula. And in typical state fashion, I will tell you, I don't quite have the details to fully answer your question yet, Paula.
No, it's okay. I just think that's a good, I'm glad to hear what happened with the state broadband office. I think you are too, but it's a whole nother conversation for another time, but for sure, where FirstNet is going to affect next Gen 911.
Yes. I think I'm happy too, Paula. I'll let you know when I find out.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any other discussion?
No, I would just ask, if you didn't announce yourself, please shoot me an email that you were on the call. That's all, Chief. Thank you.
Cool. So our next meeting is scheduled for February 16th. And I imagine it's going to be mostly call-in as well. We'll work on a March meeting, trying to get everybody together. And if nobody else has anything, then we'll go ahead and adjourn. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chief. Bye.
Thank you.